Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our September 28th City Council meeting. I will take the attendance and report that all of us are present. And I'll ask our Director of Corporate Services, Mr. McDonald, to lead us in a moment of reflection.
May we be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. Help us to be concerned only for what will promote good government. May we bring to our council chamber minds that think and hearts that feel, always having respect for others so that we may serve the people of our city in a helpful manner and for the good of all.
Thank you. Before we sit down, can I ask everyone to have a moment of silence for the loss of one of our City of Belleville family. Over the weekend, Norm Soulard, a City of Belleville employee of 19 years, passed away after a tragic ATV accident. He was a friend of all, he was full of life, he was a hard worker, and we will all miss him. He started working in our arena department in 2001 and transferred to Public Works about 10 years ago as an operator. The City of Belleville will lower the City Hall flag on the day of Mr. Soulard's funeral. I would like to ask that we now take a moment of silence to remember our friend Norm Soulard. Our thoughts and prayers are with his family at this time. Thank you. You may be seated. Item number 3 on the agenda is a disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Seeing none, we'll move to reading and confirmation of the minutes. Reading of the regular council meeting minutes of September the 14th, 2020, and the regular in-camera meeting minutes of September 14th, 2020. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Kelly, seconded by Councillor Millette. Any questions, comments? All in favor? It's carried. We'll move to deputations, and I will invite Kevin White, the Director of Government Relations for Sutherland Corp., and Roberto Rego, VP of Sales and Marketing, and with GR Bus Patrol, who will make a deputation to council. Gentlemen, welcome. Just push that button to turn the red light on and we'll be ready to go.
This one? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having us here this afternoon. My name is Roberto Rego, and I'm with Kevin White from Sutherland. Today I'm going to show you a presentation we did a couple of times in Ontario, and we did it here also in the past. So Bus Patrol is a company that was founded in 2014. What we did is we've been approached by a U.S. company that wanted to come into the Canadian market, and we started to do some testing with their technology, which we found out that it failed miserably in Canada in winter time. So we then entered an agreement with them in 2017 that we bought the technology, we bought the assets of that company, and founded Bus Patrol in 2017. What we did at the early stages is we did some pilot programs all across Canada, in Quebec and Ontario. First of all, to see what was the problem. Is illegal passing a huge problem, and we wanted to quantify how many illegal passing by per bus was occurring in Canada. We had some numbers in the state that were huge, and we wanted to see if we Canadians are better drivers than the U.S. counterpart. So what we found out, it's different. We did 13 buses in Quebec, and we did, I think it's 12 in Ontario too. So and we have an average, and we got an average of 3 illegal passing per bus per day. So if you take in consideration that in Ontario you got 16,000 buses and 8,000 buses in Quebec, which that makes it a lot. Unfortunately, it's an infraction that is very hard to enforce, because you cannot have a police officer that follows every school bus. And one of the main reasons it's distract driving is also something that has been in augmentation everywhere. So the other thing is we wanted to see how a program, a safety program like that could be deployed. So we went and met with many stakeholders, school boards, consortiums, transporters, and law enforcement, and we found out that the best way to put in place a program was a program where it was easy to access for everyone. So in terms of cost and in terms of technology and how it could be managed. So we wanted a program. We put in place a program that all stakeholders have a say, schools and consortiums. So we could have also a technology that gathers data that makes better safety decision. Yes, we're enforcing law, but at the end of the day, what we're putting in place is a safety program to change driver behaviors. We then also met with advocacy group, and there's one person that we met in Ontario, Pierre Ranger from Mattawa. He knows the dangers and really affect his family. His younger brother died from an accident of a legal passer on a school bus. I'm going to go, I don't know if the video is going to play with sound, but this is Pierre that has been with his family advocating all across Ontario. I'm not sure it's running. Oops. Anyways, Pierre and his family, it's not running, but Pierre and his family had been advocating from years, and since 2017, for the first time we met him, he's been the one that really drive the law, the passing of the law, the passing of the regulations that was passed a few months ago, and as a result, today stop arms cameras can be used in Ontario. And we thank him so much because we have worked with him in Ontario, we have worked with him in the U.S., and he's having a huge impact also in our friends in the U.S. So maybe I could share later on the video of Pierre. So the way we deploy, the way we present our solution is we think that if we, the private vendor, take the full responsibility and take the risk, delivering this technology, and adoption is easier from cities and from schools, because at the end of the day, these technology cost a lot of money, and we wanted to pull this part out of the equation, and we want a program that can be adopted. So what we do is we take the full risk, we deploy the technology on every bus, we maintain for the duration of the contract, and it at zero out of money pocket for schools, for consortium, and for the city. In Ontario, the way the regulation has been put in place and the law, municipalities are the one driving these programs. So, but the equipment is installed on a bus that is owned by a private corporation, which is managed by a consortium. So, since there are a lot of stakeholders in there, we wanted to take that part out of the equation. Another thing that is really important is when we deploy our system on all buses. Why all buses? Because what we want to create, it's drivers' behavior change. So to give you the best example I can give you, what we want to create is the same effect that when you're driving on the highway, when you're driving on the road, what do you do when you see a police car? First thing you do, probably you take out your feet out of the pedal gas and you check your speed limit, or vice versa. We want to create the same thing. When you will approach a school bus, you will have that fear and you will have that reflex. That reflex could save an incident, could save the life of a child. So that's why we want to create that. That's why full fleet deployment is so important. Now, a little bit about bus patrol. Since I came last year, a lot have changed over the year. We have introduced many new partners. We have introduced artificial intelligence. which is two big words that most of the people doesn't know what that means. Essentially what it is, it's a huge gathering of data that is made by a computer, and the computer is taking the decisions. What we do with that is we install that on our DVRs, on our computers, in our cloud-based system. And we call her Eva. So we gave her a name. Eva is the one that is watching the kids and is watching who's passing illegally. So she triggers automatically an event, and she sends that through the cloud, through our secure network, and she is the one that would build a package, the evidence package. She will send it to a provincial officer offender through everything through automation. We do not have any more human being watching evidence. So that's where we are a year from last year. We have partnered with TELUS in Canada. We are with Amazon Web Services. We also are now with FirstNet. FirstNet is not a company that is known in Canada that well, but it's the internet or the network used by police officers and law enforcement. And we are the first company in the world that has been certified by FirstNet. So all the data and all the encrypted information goes through a private network. So we do not go in public. It's a private, secure network. All the structure is there, Accenture, all the verification and privacy protocols that we go through. We even go through some reports. Everything is automated. Every information we share with police department, with school districts, with consortium. I mean, one thing we want to do is with all the data, we want to make sure that we share information to take decision. Best example I can give is if we see on one stop there's 20 infraction. Well, we're going to trigger that one and send it to a consortium and school boards because maybe that stop has a problem. So maybe the school bus driver is not stopping in the right place. So this is what this program would enable us to do. A quick overview of what we do, what we install on the bus. If you see that big yellow box, that's what it's installed on the bus right next to the stop arm camera. These are 4K infrared cameras that are installed that give us a coverage of up to 8 lanes. So we can zoom in a car at completely end of a lane, as clear as you can watch a movie in your living room. Another thing that we did and we find out it's to give value and have the buying of consortium and school district. We have partnered with companies that they use today for route planning, route execution, fleet management. So through the program, we're able to give them these tools that will cost them $0. Not only that will cost them $0, but they're going to save operation costs. So not only that our program costs nothing, but we're also a cost saving for school district and consortiums. How it works? Really simple. The bus stops, deploys. In Ontario, we don't have yellow lights. We got red lights. As soon as the red lights are triggered, we record instantly. What triggers a recording is the red lights. Red lights are open, we start recording. The school bus come to a stop. If the car passes, then the video and GPS and everything is captured through AI. Then we prepare a package, send it to provincial offense officers that will review. We do not issue tickets. We are the back end and the structure behind. Who really takes the decision of issuing a ticket or not is the provincial officer offender. Then if the provincial offense officers says yes, it triggers a citation, it triggers a ticket. The transaction goes back to our servers. when we manage completely the rest. We even print and mail the ticket to the offender. So the only thing that is required from our partner municipality or city is to have a provincial offense officer. Then it's mailed, sent to the offender. The offender gets a ticket. He gets on the print ticket. He gets a citation number, a web link. He goes to the web link. He sees automatically the video that were retained against him. So, and then he has the chance to pay or to contest. 95% of people pay online in less than 30 days. There's another the rest of the 5%, there's a portion that 4% of these people pay between 30 and 120 days. And there's 1% that goes to court. Then those people that goes to court, that 1%, we prepare everything through the court system. We integrate to the court services. We send the evidence. We even, if our partner wants, we can even schedule court hearings. I'm going to go fast on these ones because I've touched it. Another thing that is included in the program, the way we did, we take care of PSA campaigns. 30 days before the launch of any program, we put in place a PSA programs. We will advise citizens of that locality through social media, billboards locally that we take, and Boss Patrol pays for that. So it's included in our fees. Roughly, I know in Belleville you got around 130 buses, so it's more than $10,000 of ad spend that we do in a program typical like Belleville. So it runs 30 days prior. It runs through the year of the school year, and we do that every year. Our contract are based on 5 years, and we do that for the 5 years. That's an example of structure that we give. That's reporting that we manage. That number is for me one of the most important one. It's these program works. Yes, they work. We have been running programs in Montgomery County, Maryland, and in Virginia, and we have just started in New York. What it shows, it's over a 5-year period, we get a reduction of 40% of tickets issued. Then it's leveled down through a plateau because, well, there's people and they will never understand. And what we believe is these people that are putting our kids at risk should pay for their driving. Yeah, that's a case. That's one of our first customer that we did in Montgomery, Maryland. There's more than 1,300 buses in Montgomery, and 350 buses do not issue one single ticket in a year. Why we do those? Because the community needs to understand that every bus is equipped. So even if the one wouldn't get it, if we want to make sure that the program has that deterrent effect that I said earlier when you drive by a cop car, that's why we do it. How our program is funded? Our program is funded through the full fleet. So we take in consideration. Yes, there were buses that will generate revenue. Some will not. Our philosophy in there is simple: is a children's zip code should not determine the level of safety he should get. These are optional safety that we propose to school district. It's interior cameras. Most of school buses in Ontario have interior cameras. It's managed through a separate DVR, separate protocol, and it's the protocol of the schools that are in place. But we can fund as well the interior cameras for schools. One thing that we do also is, like I said earlier, we manage everything and we take and we do the service, and even if it get damaged, vandalism, everything is on us. Why? And the way we do it is through a program that we call a LT check. So we know when a camera is not running. So if you remember, our revenue gets from tickets. So if a camera is not working, we can issue a ticket. So believe me, we'll make sure that the cameras are working. That's the position of all the structure and where we dispose the components of the program. One new key feature that we will bring in Canada, it was not in Canada last year, but it's now available. It's the safety alert. The school bus driver will have a red button next to his steering wheel. If an emergency happened on the bus, he triggers that button. It triggers a text message and an email to transportation director and law enforcement, and they can have access live stream in the bus, so they can see on real time what's going on, and they can hack directly. So saving a lot of minutes or intervention that needs to be done. I think I'm almost done. Yeah, like I said, we deploy the anterior feet. Then let's go specific to the regulations and what we can and cannot do in Ontario. The regulations are very straightforward, what the MTO has released and has made clear. It's a program that are driven by municipalities. It states all the steps that need to be taken in place to put a processing center. Basically, our structure can work, what bus patrol program can be deployed, and there's 2 or 3 options that can be available if a PL wants to move forward with a program. Now, Peel region wants and make it clear that they want to make a regional processing center. They want a lead in putting in place I would say a processing center in Peel, but they want to make it available to other municipalities if they want to participate in their program. We're very at the early stage with Peel. We don't know how the structure and cost will work. Probably it will look like what exists today for red light and for speed enforcement in terms of fees and how to access it. So that's one option. It's joining an existing processing center and existing program. The second option is to do it your own. So to do a Belleville program, it's possible. The only resource that we need is a provincial offense officer. So there's a process of certification to be done. It's and I think, Kevin, if I'm not wrong, it's same way of a bylaw officer. So it's the same process. So it's to give you an example of the workload. We're managing the program of Montgomery, where there's near more than 1,300 buses. It takes 3 resources to manage 1,300 buses. So if you take that in consideration, in Belleville there's 130 buses. So it's a part-time job. It's not a full-time job. So it's about 20 to 30 hours a week. If you gather all the buses of the consortium in Belleville, which is about 700 buses, then you get a full-time job to do it. So that's the option: doing a regional processing center, going to a national processing center, or to do a Belleville processing center. So these 3 options, and our technology fulfills these 3 options. I'm going to finish with that. One thing that we since 2017, one stat that makes us, I think, proud and see that our program works. It's 98% of people that get a ticket don't get a second one. So people get it. So one thing that we like to say is, yes, we enforce law, yes, we give ticket, but we educate people, we educate drivers. That's what we do. So I hope I didn't take too much time. So I'm up to questions if.
Thank you very much. My colleagues, any questions? Councillor Culhane.
Thank you, Worship, through you. Thank you for your presentation. The stats are discouraging, very discouraging. Speed and disrespect for school buses, two of the issues of the unhappy state that society's in. Can I ask, please, have you discussed this with our local police services? Have you had a meeting with them?
We did. Actually, I was here a year ago, and we had several conversation and we exchanged a lot of information. Well, police of Belleville, like any police system in Ontario, are 100% behind a program like that. I mean, the question is who issues the tickets, and there was a lot of questioning about how the regulations of the province were going to be issued and what would be the limitations. Now that it's more easy, actually today, we don't need the police department to issue a ticket. We don't need a police officer.
If I may,
today.
That's what I understood that you said. So if a person passes the bus, they automatically get a ticket?
Well, if the provincial officer offender on his judgment, the person didn't have the time to, it's not automatic.
Okay, so
someone has to review the evidence.
it has to be a bylaw officer or a police officer.
Yes.
Yes.
So those additional hours have to come from somewhere.
Yes.
And there's certainly costs associated with that.
Absolutely.
Okay, but there's no cost directly from you. You
Well,
don't bill.
Well, let me specify one thing. When we say it's at cost neutral, we take in consideration the cost of the police officer of the person that the city will have to hire. So when we enter into an agreement, we cover these costs before we take any profit. So if Belleville would have to hire someone to issue these tickets, Boss Patrol will cover the cost of that hiring.
And if I may, one more question. The other municipalities, is it always police that are enforcing? Or is
No.
any municipality using bylaw?
No, well, most of them will use bylaw for sure.
They use bylaw?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, thank you very much.
Even in other states, even in Quebec right now, like speed enforcement and red lights. Today, speed enforcement and red lights are not done by police officers.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Carr.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. Could you explain the cost structure? So so $490 is the offense for
Yep.
going through a stop sign on a bus. So out of that $490 issued ticket, how much does your organization take from that fee or
Yeah.
from that charge?
$90 goes to the province, to the victim fund. So that goes directly to the provincial victim fund. So there's $400. We charge. There is cost operation that are established depending on what the technology that is going to be used in Belleville. Best example again, give you it's PIL. PIL is taking everything, interior cameras, and the interior cameras, the Zonar, and all the routing system. It costs them $350 per bus per month for 5 years. Then the net profit is we invoice the amount of the net profit that comes out of after that what we call the take fees, and we take 60% of the amount, and 40% goes directly to the municipality. We invoice the equivalent of 60% of the gross revenue, not net.
So the $490, and I understand $90 goes to victim surcharge, so that's $400
Yeah,
left.
left.
Out of that amount, how much does your company take to operate?
I cannot give you
Approximate.
approximately. It's going to be about $200,
Okay, thank you.
depending of the
Technology,
options and technology that's going to be used.
Yep. Anyone else, any questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming. We're going to be dealing with that first up on our reports, and Appreciate you being here. So,
Thank you.
resolution is that the deputation by Kevin White, Director of Government Relations, Sutherland Group, and Roberto Rego, VP Sales Marketing of GR Bus Patrol regarding bus patrol cameras be received and referred to reports item number 8A1. Moved by Councillor Kelly, seconded by Councillor Culhane. All in favor? It's carried. Ms. Besso. Aaron Besso from Highland Shores Children Aid is here and will make a deputation to City Council. Welcome. I'm going to
Perfect, thank you.
read it out when it's time because I have to add this stuff in. That's the wording.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and fellow council members. I hope everybody's staying healthy and well in our new normal that we have. I'm not Erin, I'm Jen Bishop,
Okay.
and I'm a resource worker from Highland Shores Children's Aid. I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to come and speak about this very important campaign. Child Abuse Prevention Month was originally started with the focus on the work that the Children's Aid Societies did with families on cases of abuse and neglect. Over the past few years, with the move to Dress Purple Day and the classroom resources, we've been slowly shifting to a greater emphasis on Children's Aid Society, what we do to support families and children, and being able to keep children within the home if it's at all possible. This year's campaign will complete that shift to a focus on Children's Aid Societies as one of the many resources available in the community to help support families facing challenges, as well as educating individuals on what role they play in keeping families and children and youth safe. We dress purple to show families facing challenges that we care and we can help. We aim to raise awareness about the supports available and how to access them, and also to let people in our communities know of the important part that they play in supporting these families. Sorry, I hope I remember to move the slides forward as I go.
You're doing great.
So, there are 38,000 children that are 15 years of age and younger living across our jurisdiction. Our jurisdiction covers from just north of Bancroft down into Prince Edward County, and from the Port Hope boundary line all the way through to Shannonville. 5.7% of those children come to the attention of our agency each year for a concern about their well-being. In recent years, because of the service needs and some of the numbers that we were getting, we required a dedicated youth services team to provide safety and wellness services to 186 youth aged 15, 16, and 17. In 2018 and 19, 10 youth aged 16 and 17 either entered care or had a voluntary youth service agreement with the Society. So there are many reasons that families come to our attention, and you can see by the chart that emotional harm, separation from parent or caregiver, caregiver capacity, physical and sexual harm, and harm by omission. But you can see that only 20% of the referrals are related to this extreme abuse that most people associate with our agency. The majority of children receiving service from Highland Shores is the result of families being unable to meet children's physical and emotional needs. Some of the difficulties that our families face include mental health concerns, addictions, social isolation, trauma, and extreme financial stress. In 2019 and 2020, the Society recorded 3,903 child protection intakes. 61% of these intakes were assessed as requiring service, which is an investigation or a link within the community that we would make for them. More than 1,350 families are assessed for a concern about their children each year, and approximately 637 families are provided with ongoing services and support. In approximately 93% of all open family services cases at Highland Shores, the children are living and remaining in the family home. The main reason children were admitted to care in 2019 and 20 is caregiver capacity, which made up 43% of children in care. This is a chart showing where most of our referrals come from. As you can see, police and educational personnel are the top two referral sources for us. Highland Shores, with the help of our community partners, provide a broad range of services to children and families where there are concerns about safety and well-being. Even through the pandemic, we continue to visit children and families in their home while observing the current health recommendations. Our child welfare workers help families obtain the services they may need, such as parenting and treatment programs. So during the pandemic, there have been many challenges which have potentially created new or different issues for families to manage. Some of the challenges families encounter as a result of COVID-19 are financial stress, isolation, and limited ability to access services. We expect that September to December will be a pressure point in a number of areas, both in child welfare and in the community. Highland Shores is hoping to work with the community in helping to address these concerns and support families in ways that are most beneficial to them. The next chart shows where our families are living as they're receiving services from us. So it would make sense that Belleville makes up the 65% of the families that we serve. 21% are in Northumberland County, 9% in Prince Edward County, and 4% out of jurisdiction. So what you can do is call Highland Shores if you have any concerns that a child or youth may be in need of protection or at risk. Reach out to neighbors and friends to ensure that they are coping and not in need of further support in these unprecedented times. Your call to Highland Shores could lead to the help and support for a child, youth, and their family. So if you could help us to raise awareness by wearing purple on Dress Purple Day, which is Tuesday, October the 27th this year. T-shirts can be purchased from our Children's Foundation, either by calling the 613-962-9292 or accessing their website. What we're also doing this year, because we haven't been able to participate in a lot of the events that we normally would throughout the month of October, the hockey games and other events that we have on. The Ontario Association of Children's Aid Society is asking for the public to post videos and to record and answer some questions about how you help and what you can do. These videos can be uploaded to OACAS, or we're able to upload them to the Foundation webpage or Facebook page. So we're encouraging, or maybe even challenging, the mayors and members of council and other members of the community to do up a video and share that and talk about why you would wear purple on Dress Purple Day. Thank you.
Right, well, thank you very much, Ms. Bishop, and obviously all of us want to pass on through you to Aaron and all the staff and the volunteers our gratitude for the important service you do for the children of our community. So we appreciate that this year is even more difficult than normal, but we're very grateful to you and all your colleagues.
Thank you.
Comments and questions, my colleagues. Councillor Culhane.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you very much for your presentation. I wanted to ask you two things. Could you tell me, please, what a voluntary youth services agreement entails?
That's where a youth can enter into an agreement with the society with a full understanding of what services that we can provide. When kids reach the age of 16, they're still not old enough to be out on their own and doing things. And if they are coming from a difficult situation, they can still access us for some help. That can include working with them or their family, or it can include just working with them helping them to obtain housing, and supporting them in different ways.
So they're, if I may, they're still able to leave home at 16 and set up independent housekeeping, as it's been for many, many years, right?
Yes.
Emancipated minor status. And my other question was, are you getting any calls from parents who simply cannot control the child?
Yes.
The children?
Yes, we
And
do
so
get those calls as well.
What happens in that instance?
Depending on the age of the child but we would go out and help those parents and help work with those parents to be able to better manage or get them some other supports that they may need to be able to help manage their kids.
But you don't remove the child under those circumstances?
No, not unless there's something that would suggest the child's safety is at risk.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly.
Thanks you, through you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for the presentation, and hats off to everybody at Highland Shores. I know tough job, and all quality people that are doing that. Thanks for the stats today too. Just taking notes during your presentation with the over 3,000 plus intakes. Something that I was thinking about, schools were shut down since March. And part of that abuse or people noticing is usually a school teacher. And schools are sometimes for kids the safest place to be. And with COVID, were caseworkers going to visit young kids? Could they conduct interviews and do a little house review? Because schools were closed, they'd lost that connection with the little boy or girl. So how was business being conducted over the last several months?
We're still open for business, and our child protection workers are still going out to families. So when we receive a call about a concern for kids, the pandemic did not stop us from going out and looking into the referrals that we receive.
Thank you.
All right, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. And both of them were sort of asked in previous, but following on Councillor Kelly, during the pandemic, was there any increase in calls for your service during that time when children weren't in school? Did you see any sharp increase?
I don't know the actual stats on that, but from what I remember hearing, no, they did not increase. I mean, I'd like to hope that the calls that were coming in were for access to services and people wondering how they can get the services that they need, but I don't think our calls actually increased.
So for children that you in connecting with, if those children, in your estimation, needed some guidance through mental health, would you refer them to an agency or a place that they could get some mental help?
Yes, that's what our community links would be, is that we would provide them with the information to contact the mental health services that were needed for them, or any other agency.
Okay, thank you. I was proud to wear purple today.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, and again in October.
That's right.
Anyone else? Well, thank you very much, Ms. Bishop, for coming here today. You did very well. I appreciate your time. And again, we will figure out what we're going to do in October, and I have an announcement a little later on under announcements regarding the month of October. But please accept our gratitude for the very difficult work that you folks do, and we count on you. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Colleagues, the resolution is that the deputation by Jen Bishop from Highland Shores Children's Aid regarding October as Child Abuse Prevention Month be received. Moved by Councillor Culhane, seconded by Councillor Sandison. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. All right, I'll ask Doug Churcher to come forward. Mr. Churcher is with Welch & Company, the city's auditors, and he'll be making a deputation regarding the 2019 City of Belleville financial statements. Mr. Churcher, good afternoon.
Afternoon. Mayor, members of council, city staff, ladies and gentlemen. As auditors for the City of Belleville, we recently met with the city's finance committee and reviewed the 2019 consolidated financial statements in detail. Included in today's council agenda is the Director of Finance Treasurer's report, along with a copy of the 2019 consolidated financial statements of the City of Belleville. The city's Director of Finance Treasurer has highlighted some of the changes in the 2019 financial statements in comparison to 2018 statement in great detail. I'll go over some of the brief highlights of the statements. On page 23, 24 of your agenda package is the auditor's report. Welch LLP is an independent firm of chartered professional accountants and will be issuing an unqualified audit report on the consolidated financial statements. There's no new accounting standards for the 2019 audit. There's several new accounting standards that were to be adopted in 2020 but have been deferred to 2023, mostly due to COVID. The standard setters have just sort of delayed implementation on those. So there's nothing currently going to change for the financial statements in the near term. On page 25 of your agenda package is the statement of financial position. Cash balance for the City of Belleville is up approximately $7.3 million, mostly due to obligatory reserves and deferred revenues being up. Development charges were up $2.8 million. Federal gas tax funds were up $4 million. And government transfers were up $3.9 million. The other significant change to your statement of financial position was your investment in government business partnership, Alexicon, was up $3.8 million. During 2019, Viridian and Whitby Hydro amalgamated on April 1st, 2019. The City of Belleville owned 13.3% in Viridian, and in the amalgamated municipality, its interest dropped to 9.044, but the assets of Whitby in the amalgamated group came in at fair market value, which resulted in a one-time equity adjustment of approximately $4.1 million. The city received $793,000 in dividends from Viridian and Alexicon during 2019. There were no new debt issued in 2019, just normal debt repayments of approximately $6.1 million versus approximately $7.5 million of debt was repaid in 2018. The next statement is the statement of operations and accumulated surplus on page 26 of your agenda package. Revenues for 2019 were up approximately $7.4 million over 2018. The bulk of that increase coming in taxation revenue, up about $6.5 million, partly due to planned tax increases and along with taxes written off much lower than budgeted, and also supplementary taxes much higher than budgeted. Expenditures are up approximately $4 million from 2018, but $3.1 million lower than budget. Other capital revenues were down $1.7 million from 2018, but $5.1 million lower than budget. Most of that's just a result of timing when the capital projects are completed. The 2019 accumulated surplus is up $26 million to $639 million, up from $613 million in 2018. The bulk of that increase is due to the equity and tangible capital assets of almost $23 million. Reserves and reserve funds are up $3.6 million. As previously mentioned, equity in government business enterprises are up $3.8 million. Capital projects has an increase of $3.1 million from $13.2 million in 2018. And that's sort of the highlights of your statement of operations and also your statement of financial position. And I'll just sort of open it up to questions that, if you have any.
Thank you very much, Mr. Churcher. Colleagues, any questions for Mr. Churcher? All right, you've answered them all. Councillor Sanderson?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through yourself, I don't have a question, just wanted to thank Doug for walking the Finance Committee through the numbers in great detail and for providing an overview to Council. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Churcher. You know, a good result, a good year for the city, and we appreciate your help making sure all the numbers are in the correct places with an understanding of the changing landscape in terms of reporting requirements and management requirements. So it's been very helpful, and I know that you enjoy working with Director Hines and her staff on this. So thank you very much. My colleagues, the resolution is that the deputation by Doug Churcher of Welch & Company, the city's auditors, concerning the City of Belleville 2019 financial statements be received and referred to reports item 8A2. Moved by Councillor Sanderson, seconded by Councillor McCaw. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Thank you for being here today. Under correspondence, colleagues, late on Friday, Director McDonald sent out an email that we had received from Mr. Glenn May Anderson, the Executive Director of Habitat for Humanity. This information will be added to the city website today as an addendum. But basically, if you recall that email, which was, I said, forwarded to you, Mr. May Anderson clarified that the Habitat for Humanity can work with a parcel of land anywhere from 2 to 4 acres in size to achieve their goals and move the Quinte Housing Hub proposal forward. A smaller piece of land would simply mean altering the design to build up additional stories while reducing the overall footprint of the building. So I need a motion to receive this as correspondence, moved by Councillor Kelly, seconded by Councillor McCaw. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. And it's being received and referred to 8B1. Am I saying that correctly? Yeah, 8B1. All right, motion to go into committee of the whole to hear and consider reports, passing of recommendations and resolutions with myself in the chair. Moved by Councillor Sanderson, seconded by Councillor Culhane. All in favor? It's carried. The agenda shall include under reports items that warrant individual attention from council, starting with 8A1, school bus stop arm cameras. The Director of Corporate Services, Clerk's Report number DCS 2020-39, Deputation 6.1, refers to the resolution that the Director of Corporate Services, Clerk's Report number DCS 2020-39, school bus stop arm cameras be received. Moved by Councillor Kelly, seconded by Councillor Culhane. Discussion. Councillor Kelly, first of all, I want to thank you for quarterbacking this through. You made a presentation under new business last year. I attended a meeting with those operators. We continue to make progress on that, so thank you for that. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a friendly amendment, if I can.
Okay.
That staff be directed to prepare terms of reference for council's consideration for an ad hoc committee to review the potential implementation of a school bus stop arm camera program in the city of Belleville with representation from council, staff, transportation operations services, corporate services, Belleville Police Service, and we'll also bring people in from Tri-Board Transportation.
All right, thank you. So we're going to receive this report, and then we're being asked to strike an ad hoc committee to basically bring, to have the terms of reference created for an ad hoc committee to bring this this matter forward. Councillor Culhane, are you good with that amendment? Great. It's a friendly amendment. Councillor Kelly on discussion?
All good. Thank you.
You're good? Okay. Anyone else want to discuss the amended motion? Councillor Thompson.
Just a question. The ad hoc committee, when you stated transportation, are you naming somebody from the transportation committee on that? Because I think it has some relevance on our transportation committee and our overview of the system in Belleville. So I would request if when you're sending that ad hoc committee, that it be somebody from the transportation committee.
Okay. I see the clerk is jotting down notes. He's going to be tasked with bringing terms of reference, including the composition of the committee, and that will come to a future meeting. And then if for some reason he hasn't included it at that point, Councillor Thompson, you can also make an amendment then to ensure that, but I'm sure the committee will be represented on this group.
I'm sure he will.
Yeah. Anyone else on discussion on this issue? Councillor Sanderson. And Councillor Kelly, can I have can I see that the resolution just so I have it? Thank you. Councillor Sanderson.
Yeah, thank you, through the chair. So I totally support the effort and the work that's gone into this, and certainly going to support the implementation of it moving forward. I'm just wondering why we wouldn't just hand it over to the Transportation Committee and let them get on with it. The committee exists. We're already with Chair Councillor Thompson looking at community safety zones. We're looking at automated speed enforcement. And to me, stop arm enforcement just sort of all fits in there with those other activities. But certainly, those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Mr. McDonald, do you have any comments? I know in discussion with you earlier, we thought this met the classic definition of our ad hoc committee, which would be a one and done issue. It would come in, it would deal with this, bring together the partners, because there's a fair amount of work that has to be dealt with Hastings County regarding the POA portion of it, how we're going to collect fines and the processing, whether we use bylaw staff or whether we use police personnel because you need a live person to view it. In Ontario, we're going to have to do a little more work because the gentleman was referring to the province of Quebec, where they already allow non-sworn officers to be involved with this new electronic form of traffic monitoring or traffic enforcement, however you want to say it, as well as pulling all these items together. So, Mr. McDonald, do you have anything you want to say on whether or not this should be just referred to the Transportation Committee to deal with versus setting up a separate ad hoc committee on the matter?
Through the chair to Councillor Sanderson's point, certainly there is something to be said for the Transportation Committee, and in looking at terms of reference, potentially drafting terms of reference for an ad hoc committee, I'll certainly look at the terms of reference and mandate for Transportation Committee. Again, as the mayor said, this seems like an ad hoc, it fits the ad hoc definition very well. It has a termination date, it's project specific, and it has partners that we wouldn't generally invite, having lots of experience with Transportation Committee to that committee, but I'll certainly have respect for that committee as we go through the process. Councillor
Sanderson, follow up?
Yes, please. With that in mind, certainly considering the amount of work that's gone into it, the partnerships that have already been developed, it's sort of, I've changed my mind a little bit here. I can see that as a one and done ad hoc committee, it would be good to see that through to completion.
All right.
Thank you.
Councillor Kelly, then Councillor McCaw.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the comments by Councillor Sanderson and Councillor Thompson, and I appreciate you supporting it too. Thank you so much. Just to speak on this, we've been working on this since last September, and Matt McDonald and myself have been meeting with Bus Patrol, Tri-Board, Belleville City Police. We've had some meetings with them and the school boards. So maybe I was being a bit selfish with Mr. McDonald, is that if we can get this support from council to move with this, that we already know the players already involved in where we're at. Everybody's at the same stage, and now I just want to get this up and going. And no disrespect to the Transportation Committee, but this is something that I just felt that I've already built relationships with the people involved, that we can just move this along. But I certainly respect your thoughts and your opinion on having a key role in moving forward on this. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Councillor McCaw.
Thank you, through you. I'm just, for clarification, when there was mention of bringing someone in from the Police Service Board as well as the POA, are we talking about staff, or are we talking about the council representatives for the POA and
it would be staff members, Councillor McCaw. And when we say POA, I'm not so sure we would necessarily bring in folks from Hastings County. It would be more about us having to decide how we want to have this dealt with through the POA process. As you know, Belleville City Council has for a number of years had some concerns regarding the administration of the provincial offences through Hastings County, and this may be something that we want to be a little more specific. So I don't want to misspeak. I want people to understand that when we first met with this group, Belleville Police Service was represented by a staff member, and Acting Chief Callahan is very supportive of this, and I think that's how we would see it.
Thank you. That's a good clarification, and I'm glad to hear that. I am on the POA committee and, also Police Service Board, and I have actually seen the impact of how the funds are being distributed as it relates to the budget for the Police Service Board. So, no, I'm happy to hear that.
And I just, in follow-up to Councillor Carr's questions during the deputation, when we start off with $490 for the infraction, $90 going to the Provincial Victims Impact Fund, and then approximately 50% going to the company. Now we start to have to look at our costs to administer the program, and it gets to be pretty skinny. So that's what some of the work of this committee will be, dealing on that in terms of how to make a recommendation back to council. All right, thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, just follow up. I appreciate Councillor Sanderson making the comment because of the Transportation Committee. It just puts a little more emphasis on the idea that it have somebody from the Transportation Committee, and I certainly appreciate Councillor Kelly doing this for us and bringing it forward, and I look forward to one of us representing it on your committee, because it seems like a one ad hoc committee, and let's get it done. Let's get it moving forward if we can. I certainly have some concerns and questions on the funding and how it's administered and everything like that, but I commend. So.
Right, thank you. Councillor Carr?
Thank you very much. And, anytime that we can contribute to public safety, we really have to investigate it. And I appreciate the fact that this ad hoc committee is actually coming to council to get endorsed. In this particular instance...
Which is required, Councillor Carr.
Oh, yes, I know.
As a council committee.
Yes. So anyway, getting back to what I was saying, the way I look at it is, and I sit on transportation, this is very much a nuts and bolts investigation that needs to occur. Looking at the Director of Corporate Services report, there is a lot of considerations that have to occur, and certainly at the technical level, not necessarily at the council level. And in particular, as you referenced, the cost breakdown and what it's going to cost the municipality, court resources, things of that nature. We've heard from the police service before about how their capacities are quite stretched, and so a lot of this technical aspect certainly would be well served in a ad hoc committee, and look forward to seeing their investigation down the road.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so I'll just read the motion, the amended motion again. The resolution is that the Director of Corporate Services, Clerk's Report Number DCS 2020-39, school bus stop arm cameras be received, and that staff be directed to prepare terms of reference for Council's consideration for an ad hoc committee to review the potential implementation of a school bus stop arm camera program in the City of Belleville, with representation from Council, staff, and in brackets, Transportation and Operations Services, Corporate Services, Belleville Police Service, and Tri-Board Transportation. So that's the motion before us. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. 8A2, City of Belleville 2019 Consolidated Financial Statements. The Director of Finance Treasurer's Report Number DF 2020-19. Deputation item 6.3 was referred to this item. The resolution is that City Council approve the transfer of $648,600.54 to various reserve funds from capital projects listed as Schedule A, and that City Council approve the transfer of $118,599.71 from various reserve funds to capital projects listed as Schedule A, and that City Council approve the City of Belleville's audited 2019 Consolidated Financial Services. Moved by Councillor Sanderson, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Ms. Hines, do you have anything you'd like to say? Thank you very much for your navigating us through these items. Any discussion, colleagues? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? It's carried. 8A3, removal of brick entrance feature at West Park Village. The Director, Development Engineering, the Development Engineer and Training Approval Section, report number APS 2020-38, and the resolution is that the brickwork that forms the entrance feature for West Park Village subdivision be removed and reinstated with grass by the Transportation and Operations Services Department due to its current deteriorated state. Get it on the floor. Moved by Councillor McCaw, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Discussion. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much. This particular item has been discussed over the past years that I've been on council. These items, and I'm just trying to recollect, are these on city property or are these on private property?
All right. Mr. Beauvais, do you want to? Mr. Ashton is here. I'm sorry. Thank you. Mr. Ashton is in the audience, or Mr. Reid. We'll have him come forward. Good afternoon, Mr. Reid.
Good afternoon. Through the chair to Councillor Thompson, yes, they are on city property.
Because I understood years gone by, Mr. Rowlands, that's the developer of that park, originally built these, but seeing they're on city property, we can remove them with no objection from. Have the residents been consulted? Because I know I dealt with this a number of years ago. Some of the residents were complaining of the state of them. They either wanted them removed or rebuilt. So has there been any connection with residents?
I think we have had a few calls of residents wanting them removed, but I don't believe there has been a consultation process.
But we've had comments they wanted removed.
Yes.
Thank you.
Right. Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor? It's carried. We'll now move on to consent items, where council may adopt consent items by one motion, but prior to consideration of such motion, members may request that specific items be removed from consideration under such motion, and council shall consider such items individually. I'll ask for anyone to pull them. Councillor Culhane. All right. Councillor Carr.
No, thank you.
Councillor Sandison.
No, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Millette. No, thank you. Councillor Williams.
No, thank you.
Councillor McCaw.
No, thank you.
Councillor Thompson.
8B, 1, 5, and 6.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly.
No, thank you.
Okay, so the motion is that the following agenda items be approved with the exception of items 8B1, 8B5, and 8B6. Right? Right. Gets that motion moved by Councillor McCaw, seconded by Councillor Carr. All in favor. We'll move to 8B1, Habitat for Humanity, the property request for the Habitat Horizon Center. And it is the Director of Corporate Services, Clerk's Report number DCS 2020-41. And the resolution is that the Director of Corporate Services, City Clerk's Report number DCS 2020-41, Habitat for Humanity, property request, Habitat Horizon Center be received. Moved by Councillor Culhane, seconded by Councillor Kelly. Councillor Culhane.
Thank you, Your Worship.
You want to set your button? When I hit your button on your, yeah.
Further to this motion, and with added congratulations to Mr. May Anderson and his team, I think this is a marvelous undertaking, this Horizon Center. Very forward-thinking, and I just support it wholeheartedly. So I'd like to both receive and put forward a motion, if I may.
To amend the motion?
To amend the motion, and it would read that Council approve the donation of the property located at 93 Dundas Street, which is the former Belleville Police Services headquarters, as the primary option, with staff being directed to work with Habitat for Humanity Prince Edward Hastings on the transfer of ownership, and that, in the event this property is deemed unsuitable, approve the donation of the property located at Sydney and Bridge Corner as a secondary option, and direct staff to provide Habitat for Humanity Prince Edward Hastings with a letter of commitment identifying the donation of land as the city's contribution to the Habitat Horizon Center project for the purposes of their funding application.
Right. So your intent is to designate the former police service building
First.
property as the first choice, And for some reason, if that should not be able to go, we have a backup plan, which is the fairgrounds. And that staff can issue the letter that Mr. May Anderson requires to be able to go ahead with the funding.
Exactly.
Okay. Councillor Kelly, you're okay with that additional amendment? So it is a amended motion on the floor. Discussion on the amended motion. Councillor Culhane, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right. Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, on the property, have we established the cost of transferring the land? Because right at the police station, do we not have a safety village there? And what's the prognosis with moving that? So if we're donating that, should we not have a reasonable cost of what it's making our donation to? And I don't call them looking at housing, because God knows that we need housing. But I'd certainly like to know, are we looking at the cost of that land, and are we going to remove the safety village and move it at our cost?
Okay, just one. I just wanted to double check that I can talk about something that we've met about in camera to discuss. So I can confirm for you, Councillor Thompson, that we have had discussions with the Children's Safety Village about the fact that they will be moving from their current location. I can't disclose anything more about exactly where and when, but this has been a almost 2-year discussion with them. So they are well aware of the fact that with the fact that at some point the police station will be vacated and that City Council would be looking at declaring it surplus, and they would be needing to move as well. This is now moving things along where we're now going to designate the property to Habitat. In terms of the cost, there would be no cost because it's an asset that we would just transfer over like we do with other properties. If you're looking for an appraisal of the property and what the value is, we would have to go through a more extensive process. But in terms of our ability to designate, to give the land, it would be like any other city-owned piece of property. We can well, in this case, donate it to Habitat, which, if we go back to the presentation at the last meeting, is a requirement for them to qualify for CMHC funding for the rest of the project.
But, sorry, so the removal of the safety village, is that a city expense, or would it be the Children's Safety Village, or is that too early to discuss that?
I think it's too early to discuss that, and that would be something that we will be discussing in camera, as it is a property-related matter. But the Children's Safety Village is very well aware of the fact that they need to move, similar to our stance with the Legion, where they know they need to move, and we haven't finalized those negotiations. But certainly this decision today, if Council were to approve this motion, very clearly states out to the Children's Safety Village that we need to conclude those discussions.
And finally, if I may, sorry, Councillor Kelly.
You have the floor. Yeah.
Do we have an approximate value of that piece of land? I know I don't want to involve a real estate people, but
we do, and I would prefer that we continue to have that information in camera until such a time that we're able to do it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Next on the discussion, Councillor Sandison, followed by Councillor Kelly. Councillor Sandison.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Through you to the Director of Corporate Services. So are these the only available lands across the city that would fit with the request for the, I guess now 2 to 4 acre parcel?
Mr. McDonald.
Through the chair to Councillor Sandison. I would say there might be 1 or 2 that we could look at, but we got the request, or the correspondence that was added from the Executive Director of Habitat for Humanity came in after the report and the agenda were prepared. So property section and myself looked at the list again. The reality is we used 2 to 6 acres in our original look. The criteria, as I stated previously after the deputation, land of that nature in the city's holdings, on services, good size on bus route in the urban area, you're looking at the majority of it that was even close. So I don't think anything is going to come from the further look at our inventory.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to thank Councillor Culhane for her amendment. I think it shows the spirit in terms of we want to move forward and we want to get this thing up and going. When I looked at the options in terms of the parcel of lands that were available, I sort of thought that perhaps the southeast corner of the northwest portion at Bridge in Sydney might be an ideal location. But then when I got the email that said that a smaller parcel of land would do, and that they would be able to utilize the Belleville Police Station, it just meant that they would have to build up to accomplish the same number of units. I then took into consideration the fact that if they're at that location, they're within walking distance to downtown, they're within walking distance to the hospital, to medical labs, and a short ride up to Bayview for groceries. So certainly it makes sense to me that the Belleville Police Station, if that fits the needs for Habitat for Humanity, I certainly would support that.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to make some comments too, and I was happy to second the motion by Councillor Culhane. 2 weeks ago, when Glenn May Anderson was here speaking on behalf of the Horizon Center for Habitat for Humanity, I can't speak for everybody here, but I left that night and was thinking as I was making my way home, that's the first big-time wow factor for me at City Hall at a meeting. And the people that I've spoken to over the last week and a bit were really impressed with that presentation. I know it's an aggressive goal, and I really want to see this move forward too. And we know that the new police station is probably weeks away from opening up. And at first there was the acreage issue. It didn't seem big enough, but we got that retraction or relook on Friday from Mr. McDonald. And I think the current Belleville City Police Station could work. And if not there, the fairgrounds. But we know the need, and that was a wow factor 2 weeks ago from Habitat for Humanity. So I hope it can work out at either the police station or the fairgrounds.
All right, thank you. Councillor Millette.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to support the motion, and I just with a concern. I see Mr. Glenn May Anderson's in the audience. If through you, if we may, can I just ask a question of Mr. May Anderson?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Glenn. Just quickly, it seems, and excuse me if I'm not trying to rain on your parade, but I seem to think that we're, the last meeting we had a delegation at which you spoke and unveiled this wow factor, as Councillor Kelly put it, presentation. But now we seem the very next meeting to be falling all over yourselves to, throw big parcels of land at you, which, hey, don't get me wrong, it's a great thing that we are and we're in a position to do that. But is there a certain expediency that's required here? Is this why? Because there were some questions raised, financial implications in Mr. McDonald's report on, all of these costs need to be determined, including structures, existing structures, and we've heard about the safety village. But I guess my question is, in terms of you applying for funding, is this why we now need to make this happen now?
So through the chair, to apply for the funding now is the most expeditious thing for us to do from a perspective of what CMHC has available. Believe it or not, during the pandemic, there are other projects that have been canceled or postponed, so there's an opportunity for us to step in. And I'll also add that I was also quite shocked and surprised that within 24 hours of making the deputation here at City Hall, I received not one but 4 emails from developers who said, hey, can we get involved with you guys, and don't worry about raising any more money, and you just, it's okay, just including one very large one in Mississauga, which tells me I think we're on the right track here. So at least I hope that is. So to get the process moving, the commitment for land is key. We can't move anything forward without that commitment for land, so that it really does expedite the process.
Okay, absolutely, and that's, I just, because all of a sudden, wham, bam, and we've got a motion on the floor to, okay, but that said, I can fully support it, and
Can we just
all
go back,
full
though,
speed ahead.
if you could repeat what you said to us at the last meeting, because timing was of the essence. Once you get a commitment from the city about a parcel of land, how long did you estimate before you could actually start construction?
So at this point, it takes a year for us to get approval for the loan. There's still pre-development work that we'll have to do, soil samples, identifying that the site's okay, checking environmental conditions, et cetera, a number of things that we have to do. And we have to apply for funding for that as well. There are grants available from CMHC for us to do some of that pre-construction work. So at the earliest, I would say we're putting a shovel in the ground in 18 months. So it's one of those where the faster we get on with it, the better, but that's still an 18-month period between now and when we can actually put a shovel in the ground.
And we continue to have some sticky tape on this, in the sense that for some reason, if this project should not go ahead, the land is not given. So the land is being granted conditionally upon them being successful and going through that process. So it's a good question. All right, Councillor Thompson.
Just one quick question to Mr. Anderson. Because this is a smaller piece of land, you say you can go up?
Correct.
Is there any concern with height restrictions or in that parcel of land?
Not through our original, through the chair, not through our original conversations with city planning staff. Again, we'll go through the entire process of reevaluating. The design itself may change, but we can adapt, we can pivot for the building that's required.
So right now, it's a two-story or three-story?
Three-story right now.
And if you have to go up, you'll go 4 stories if that's the
Exactly.
case. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Carr.
Thank you. While you're at the podium, would 2 weeks make a difference?
Would 2 weeks make a difference? Not really one way or the other, I don't think so.
Okay, thank you. So I just have a couple comments if I could.
Let's see if any, I'll come right back to you.
Sure.
Does anybody else have any questions for Mr. May Anderson while he's here? Okay, thank you, Mr. May Anderson. You can sit down. Councillor Carr, go ahead.
Thank you. Certainly the project is certainly an excellent project and something that's needed. As you see, 1,000 square foot home with two bedrooms and 1.5 baths selling for over $400,000 in our community. The cost of affording a house is getting out of reach for just your average citizen trying to make ends meet. And so, this isn't necessarily even putting a dent into it, but we would be irresponsible if we didn't look at all options, and certainly appreciate Habitat for Humanity and what they're proposing here, because this is considerable in comparison to previous projects of just the single houses they do. My concern is that when we're talking about property, and I understand the urgency, but when we're talking about property, we're talking about assets of the city, and by extension of that, assets to the taxpayers of the city. And certainly when we're looking at it, and in the report we have before us, we have sketches of the property and the size and the location, but that's all we have. And there's a number of different options here, and we understand that Habitat for Humanity has some particular requirements in terms of where they would like it located in terms of city services, and that's certainly understandable. But there's a number of them that fit here. The thing that I would like to see is a little bit better cost analysis of each property, property value analysis, and also projected tax revenue on the various properties. We're currently negotiating with the Belleville Agricultural Society, and some of that we're looking at what the value of that land is and what it could be used for down the road. And certainly tax revenues off those properties, and particularly if they're in high traffic, high demand commercial areas, that's revenue for the city. And I'm not suggesting for a moment, so please don't construe this the wrong way, that I'm opposing the project or that somehow it doesn't fit into the city landscape. What I'm trying to get at is a little bit more of analysis in terms of, so the police headquarters, or the current police headquarters at 93 Dundas. Great location, certainly for a habitat project. But what is the value of that land if we were to sell it? What would go at that location? What would be the projected tax revenue at that location? Knowing that, and knowing each one of those, on each of those properties, would be able to give us a better understanding of what we have to gain and what we have to lose, with the end result being that we're going to provide them with some property. But my concern also is the Sydney and Bridge location. You know, to renegotiate a lease with the Belleville Agricultural Society is going to cost us money. Therefore, we're going to need revenue to offset those costs. That's certainly not anything that's hidden, and certainly that's been the way we've been moving forward, and certainly move forward on the east side, the Ben Bleecker property. So I see this as no different, and so that's why I asked the question of Mr. May Anderson, is does 2 weeks make a difference? Because I think if we had the information of the true cost for each property, we also have buildings on the one property, what are the demolition costs? Having all those costs associated, the projected value of those properties, and also the potential tax revenue we could obtain if selling them and allowing them to be developed. And that's key. From there, I think we'd be in a better position to know whether we're making the right decision on the right location. So with that, I'm going to make a motion for a tabling motion for 2 weeks to ask for cost analysis, property value analysis, and projected tax revenue on all the properties in that report.
Is there a seconder? Seconded. So unfortunately, there's no debate on tabling a motion. We need to move immediately to the vote on it. All in favor?
I'll request a recorded vote, please.
Requested a recorded vote.
So on the amended motion to be tabled, Councillor Sanderson?
No.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
Councillor Williams?
Yes.
Councillor Carr?
Yes.
Councillor Culhane? No. Councillor Kelly?
No.
Councillor Millett?
Yes.
Councillor McCaw?
No.
Mayor Panchuk?
No. The tabling motion fails. Back on discussion on the amended motion. All right. I have some comments I'll make, and then if there's anyone who wants to finish up. I think certainly that financial cost information is relevant and would be useful, and we can move ahead on two paths. The requirement that Habitat needs from us is a commitment to provide some sites. We've shortlisted with this resolution 2, and then there's a lot of work that has to go ahead. This is not really different from the land that we've given Habitat in the past. We did not receive from them site layouts. I don't recall us requesting an appraisal of those properties when in particular Councillor Carr was very enthusiastic about donating those sites to people's property. We didn't ask for what the tax harvesting of those residential properties were. We thought this was a good idea. We recognized that we had to make a commitment for those projects to go ahead, and there is no difference. With respect to the urgency that is on this, we are, and we've known this since for some time, we are dealing with a severe housing crisis. and we are moving as quickly as we can as a municipality. Mr. Ashton and his department have been moving at light speed for the way municipalities can change their official plans, their ability to assist through financial incentives. All those things are key. And an extra 66 units will make a huge difference. And to tell people that we want to hold off on doing that even for 2 weeks on something that is going to be at least 18 months, to me, we need to get going on this project, and I'm happy to see this. Some interesting information that as fast as we have been moving, last year at the Housing Summit, we identified 1,000 units as the goal of this council for this term, where we would provide new rental units into our market. And, you know, by the end of August, we have already issued permits for construction of 550 rental units in the city. So we're at 55% of our goal, and we haven't even been able to provide some of these financial incentives that are going to come out of our process. We're going to have to revise that goal upwards. You know, the 1,000 rental units is not going to be, it's going to be achieved very, very quickly. You know, we'll be looking at 2,500 or 3,000 or 5,000. And these 66 units are going to be very, very welcome. So I'm, you know, this is a $27 million project. We have a piece of property that we believe is going to work. We have a piece of property that Habitat feels is the right one. They have the ability, as soon as we issue the letter of intent from the city clerk of our interest, that they can make their application to CMHC to get going on this project. I don't think we have a moment to wait. I'm excited about this going forward. I thank Habitat and their board for their vision to be able to provide this very, very important housing project for us now. And I hope that this is not the end of these types of developments, but in fact is the first of multiple developments as we deal with our housing crisis. A housing crisis which, with 550 new units in our market, has not made a dent. We still have as high a demand as before, and it's going to increase over the next little while. And so time is of the essence, and I'll be supporting it. Back on discussion, I think I saw Councillor Carr wanting to have the floor again, and Councillor Kelly. Councillor Carr.
Thank you. And yes, I was very enthusiastic over that one residential lot, or possibly two. These are a little different in that they are, some are commercial in design and also have other implications based on other moving parts that I've referred to before. But certainly deferring for 2 weeks does not diminish my enthusiasm.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's interesting to hear the discussions tonight from some of my colleagues. We heard 2 weeks ago 66 units and 66 families. I get passionate about this because sometimes I see the big picture that we're not all on the same page. Many tonight here will go home to their 300,000 plus home and snuggle up and watch a sporting event and have a nice meal, where some in this community have a tough time making ends meet and paying rent. You go to their website, Habitat for Humanity. I am taken back by some of the comments. Again, the vote shows the community that, oh, there's the split again. There's no split. This is how I feel. You look at their website and it says, offering hope to families. As the mayor mentioned, we have given property to Habitat for Humanity. The people in our neck of the woods in Quinte West and the county and in North Hastings have been doing this for years, and they've been models. We sit back, and I know, Councillor Carr, you have a good point about what taxes are we going to get from the police station. I hope it's that, and not a comment or a thought that not in my backyard downtown do we need Habitat for Humanity. Because that's how I take this.
Point of order.
Let's just look at
point of order.
Councillor Kelly. Councillor Carr, point of order. I'll give you an opportunity to state your point of order.
Yeah, thank you. And you know, I think I was pretty clear in my debate, and I did say that asking these questions does not diminish my enthusiasm, and I didn't particularly center out any address of all these different locations. And certainly, I would not utter the words "in my backyard." So for the councillor to suggest that
Walk the talk then.
Okay.
suggest that
Councillor
that's
Walk the talk.
Councillor Kelly,
to suggest
I'll
that
rule on the
that
point of
is
order.
my position when I didn't state it is an error, and I'd like it retracted.
okay,
please.
so Councillor Carr, I'm looking at the rules of order. There are 4, and I'm trying to understand how what you raise is one of those points of order. Just a sec, I'll get you'll go right back to you, Councillor Kelly, on debate.
I might have been incorrect. It was actually a point of personal privilege.
And the point of personal privilege is?
Well, the suggestion that, my integrity is being questioned here, and that it's being implied that my request for additional information is somehow being construed as not in my backyard, and that's certainly not what I said. I did indicate that the project was of value to our community and something that we needed to move forward on.
I didn't take the comments that way, Councillor Carr. I know Councillor Kelly knows you do not live in the vicinity of the former police station, so I don't recognize as a valid point of privilege. Councillor Kelly, you have the floor under debate.
Thank you. As I continue through you, Mayor. So, 66 families. Glenn May comes here 2 weeks ago with energy. All those volunteers that have worked for Habitat for Humanity and all the people that work in that organization and the people that want to give, just mentioned to us before the debate that 4 construction companies have reached out to him thinking outside of the box. But we, according to some here, just fluffed off and gave a couple of properties. Tell the families that are living there, you got fluffed off land. That's how I took it. So to sit around here and have this discussion again tonight, when we had our housing summit, it's over a year and a half ago, guys. Year and a half ago. Year and a half ago, and we're having this discussion tonight. And I know you'll come back to, it's protocol and blah, blah, blah. Let's support the Habitat for Humanity. Let's put some faith in this project. And 66 families, it's 18 months before they're going to be shovel ready. In 2 weeks, who knows what COVID's going to be doing to councils across the province. That's all I got to say about it. Really disappointed.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I heard some statements made. To make the statement that there's a 5-4 in this council is insinuating that we have a split. We don't have a split.
Councillor Thompson, maybe we could just focus on the issue which is before us now, which is the amended resolution on the floor.
And
so if I can ask all members of council to focus on the resolution that's on the floor, it would be very much appreciated.
And I am focusing on the motion that's on the floor. The motion on the floor is to accept this project. It's a great project. To insinuate that we're on different levels of wanting housing for the public in this city is ridiculous. We all want the best for our city. And I don't think anybody around this table is insinuating anything different. We all know how valuable it is. And for a councillor or the mayor or whoever to make statements that's derogatory, I feel, towards the rest of council is unfair. We're all asking questions. Yeah, there was 4 voted to table it and there was 5 not to table it, and that's fine. But that's a democratic society we live in. If we're going to change that, then we don't need a mayor and a council. So let's have debate, and let's have fair debate in this council. I've sat in this council for a lot of years.
Councillor Thompson, on the topic of the resolution, please.
Okay,
I'll call you to order.
I will support the motion to go ahead. But my last statement is, we all work together in the future by giving this to Habitat, or we hope to have other developers come forward now and see the opportunity that the city is giving to Habitat. And now these other developers may come forward because they've been fighting with us for years to give them some forgiveness in building fees and so on and so forth. We fought that, and we finally come through because we know how the housing is. So I'm hoping now with us moving this, we'll bring it the opportunity for these other developers in their city to show that we mean what we mean, and we're moving ahead, and this council is working together. Otherwise, it should be disbanded.
Thank you. Councillor McCaw.
Thank you, through you. I'm going to take a lighter approach. You know, I can understand what Councillor Carr is saying and why he's saying it. But from a personal standpoint, and someone who spent their life in real estate, knows values, I'm quite comfortable. In fact, I love the proposal from Mr. May Anderson, and the location is second to none. Second to none. That building, if you can even call it that the police have been housed in, is a disgrace and an eyesore. And it is time for it to come down and something nice, shiny, and new with such value to the community be put up in its place. I am more than happy to support that amended motion, and I would love to do that tonight, see this project go forward, and thank you, Mr. May Anderson.
Right. Anyone else? Councillor Williams?
Thank you, through you, and I certainly see the passion. I think it's warranted. I think, you know, we have needed housing here for a long time. We've talked about it, and to your point, we have a little action. I just think, just further to Councillor Carr, I think just on precedence in terms of a little bit more detail that we've been pressed at for council for procedure for the last year and a half. I support this. I think this is great, and I think I wondered out loud last time if the police station was the perfect location. This year we've seen some property that we've donated, the last that I recall being to QEDC or to the Trenvale Group. We're looking at a new business development center. However, to get there, we went in camera, got the cost of that land, knew what the tax implications were, and then we made the decision as council. I think, speaking for my colleague, Councillor Carr, I believe that's what we were looking for, is just a little bit more detail. When we give a check and we want to give something to Habitat, and we have in the past, and we will again, we just need to know how much that's going to cost the taxpayer. That's who we're responsible for. So not against the intended motion, not against the fact this is Habitat and we need to absolutely do something. I think going back to the intent of the table was that we have all the numbers so that the taxpayer who's paying the bill knows exactly what we gave. And that's not to take away from the fact that we need to do it. And I will say, and I think everyone around this table has said we need to do this, it would just be nice to make sure we know how much is that going to cost the taxpayer, because let's face it, we are going to face another budget not too soon in 2021, and we have our capital budget in the fall, and we need to know the dollars and cents. But I support it. I think it's a great initiative, and at the end of the day, just wanted to know how much it's going to cost. Hopefully we can get that before it starts. Thank you.
Councillor Sanderson.
Thank you, Your Worship, and a little disappointed that we're still talking about the tabling motion, so I'm going to direct my comments to the motion that's before us. I mentioned at last council when the presentation was made that it was brilliant, and I stand by that. It is brilliant, and the fact that we as a council have an opportunity to partner on this thing, one of, I think probably in the province, it behooves us to move quickly, and I don't believe that there's any cost to the taxpayer if we donate the Belleville Police Station. It's land that will be converted into housing. It's going to be occupied by residents. There'll be taxes. There'll be increased economic benefit, not only for the 66 families, but for the surrounding community as well. So I wholeheartedly support this. Thank you.
Councillor Millette. Then we'll wrap it up.
Thank you, and I'm not going to rehash the tabling motion either. Suffice to say, I support this amended motion as put forward by Councillor Culhane, and I just want to say that was the reason I asked Mr. May Anderson to come to ask what the urgency was, if there was perhaps any, at any point we needed to ask any more questions, what the rush was. We understand there's a rush. There is no absolutely, you look around this room, there's not a person, man, woman, or child who says not to do this. So to suggest otherwise and to suggest that anyone who would question whether it can wait 2 weeks is somehow a black-hearted Grinch who would kick 66 families into the street is a little rich in my book, and I've, you know, I don't know where that came from, but I know that everybody, even the ones who supported asking for more information, wholeheartedly support this, and to suggest otherwise is, quite frankly, just a little bit out there. So, thank you.
All right. Councillor Culhane, this is your motion, so I'll ask you to speak last. But before I do that, you know, the fact of the matter, regardless of some of the discussion around the table today, this is a good news story, and it's a positive thing for the City of Belleville. And what I regret out of this whole conversation that we've had for the last half an hour is that it's taken the focus off of that, particularly when all members of council had this information. It was public on Thursday evening. They could have made questions. They could have made inquiries, so we could have focused today on what we're doing, which is we're going to provide an opportunity for 66 additional families in Belleville to have safe, secure, and clean housing. And that is what this council will be doing going forward. You know, I continue to be amazed at how much progress we're making, how much interest there is in the City of Belleville to help with this housing. And it is rather unfortunate that today, you know, there's going to be stories about the fact that we weren't all focused on that moving forward. So I am going to very gratefully say thank you to Mr. May Anderson and his board again from Habitat for Humanity for stepping forward with this very, very creative idea. You know, as Councillor Sanderson rightly pointed out, we receive nothing off of that property today. And we have for the last number of years that it's been a police station. We are going to be donating a piece of property to a charitable organization, which is a not-for-profit, which is going to continue to move forward. This is a good news story for the City of Belleville, and one in which I'm really, really proud of. It is a demonstration of our commitment towards building more rental accommodation in our city, which we heard loud and clear during the Housing Summit was something that was important. And I am just so anxious to see all the recommendations that we brought out of that Housing Summit come into order so that we can start applying them and provide those financial incentives to really jumpstart this. But 66 units will make a big difference. Councillor Culhane, I'll give you the last word as the mover of the motion, and then we'll call the vote.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think this is innovating and exciting and brilliant, and I think other municipalities will look to it and expand upon it, and I think it's a hopeful, positive note in a very difficult time. So thank you again, Mr. May Anderson. That's all I have to say.
Okay, so the amended motion is that the Director of Corporate Services, City Clerk's Report Number DCS 2020-41, Habitat for Humanity, property request, Habitat Horizon Center be received, and that Council approve the donation of the property located at 93 Dundas Street, the former Belleville Police Service headquarters, as the primary option, with staff being directed to work with Habitat for Humanity Prince Edward Hastings on the transfer of ownership, and that in the event this property is deemed unsuitable, approve the donation of the property located at Sydney and Bridge on the northwest corner of the old Belleville Racetrack and Fairgrounds as a secondary option, and direct staff to provide Habitat for Humanity Prince Edward Hastings with a letter of commitment identifying the donation of land as the city's contribution to the Habitat Horizon Center project for the purposes of their funding application.
Recorded vote?
Councillor Sanderson is requesting a recorded vote.
Sorry.
Mr. McDonald, when you are ready.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
Councillor Williams?
Yes.
Councillor Carr,
Yes.
Councillor Culhane,
Yes.
Councillor Kelly,
Yes.
Councillor Millette,
Enthusiastically, yes.
Councillor McCaw,
Yes.
Councillor Sanderson,
Yes.
Mayor Panchuk.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next on our agenda, 8B5, Belleville Green Infrastructure Demonstration Project. General Manager, Transportation and Operations Service Report number GMTOS 2020-23, and the resolution is that pursuant to the General Manager of Transportation and Operations Services Report number GMTOS 2020-23, that a bylaw to approve and authorize the execution of a memorandum of understanding between the City of Belleville and Quinte Conservation Authority be prepared by Council's consideration. Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Millette. Councillor Thompson, you had asked this to be pulled. You have the floor, sir.
Yeah, just one question to Mr. Reid. In the budget is $60,000. Is with the other funding that's coming to us, will that be sufficient of the $60,000 that we have left for our portion?
Mr. Reid.
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson, at this point, before it goes to tender, we're unsure. This agreement with Quinte Conservation gets the ball rolling. They're going to be looking for additional funds beyond their $20,000 for hopefully another 20, and then maybe a little bit more. This basically starts the process so we can have a partnership and work towards a project.
So if there's any additional charges, they will come back to us then?
It would, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Millette.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I'm going to wholeheartedly support this because as the newly minted chair of the Green Task Force and a member of Quinte Conservation, I know that it's something everybody's quite excited about at Quinte Conservation. There were some concerns at the development of this park of the impact on nearby wetlands and the environmentally sensitive area nearby. This is an absolutely perfect implementation of modern eco-construction, if you will. Anybody who's looked at what this eco-raster is all about, it's some pretty spectacular stuff. The things you put into your blue box ground up to make the grids for this. They can fill it with gravel, they can fill it with all manner of material. The bottom line is it's a permeable surface rather than a paved runoff where motor oil and all manner of other contaminants could run into that wetland. This is absolutely something I would like to see succeed at this park, and as you can see, Quinte Conservation is bullish on it. I would hope that this as a demonstration project, we could see this in other areas of the city. Thank you.
Good. Anyone else on this item? Yeah, so, over the past few months since we reopened the playground equipment at Stanley Park, I have had the chance to observe it, and it is, I can report to council, it is being used by the children of that part of the city, and it's wonderful to see, as I said before, the laughter and the joy that these kids are having when they're on the structures. Since the opening back in, I think it was the beginning of July, if I remember correctly, Councillor Kelly and Councillor Thompson and Councillor Sanderson were there with me when we cut the ribbon. We knew that we were going to have an issue with off-street parking in this area, and we were working on the plan. And fortunately, Quinte Conservation has assisted us with that plan. I have seen people parking on the street, and it has been a bit disruptive to the neighborhood. So it'll be good to see this added to that area. But as Councillor Millette talked about, being in a sensitive area, we wanted to be careful. Quinte Conservation would have approved. They had given us previous approval for a parking area. This just makes it so much better for that community. And with the addition of benches and garbage containers, in the future we will finish the trail in terms of a paved trail. This is all excellent. Perhaps, Councillor Millette, the Green Task Force may want to recommend that the trail itself also be of this environmentally helpful material to as we go through that area. But this is a wonderful legacy project, and it's good for our residents, it's good for the environment, and it's something that I think we're all going to be very, very proud of moving on. So thank you. Councillor Thompson, you had moved this item. I'll give you the opportunity for the last word, sir.
Thank you. Just one comment. On Edge Hill, there's an entrance into, and I talked to the mayor about this, there's an entrance off of Edge Hill. I would certainly like our city, once the parking lot is paved, to look at the possibility of trying to close off. I know that's an excess entrance for our parks people, but look at the possibility of closing that entrance off, even with a small barrier, because I've had concern from a couple of people that live on Edge Hill and the one that lives right next door, people pulling in there. So I would like our staff to look at that. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Reed's in the audience, and I see him paying attention. And again, I think that once the parking area, the non-paved parking area, just to make sure everyone understands is clear, is open, then it'll alleviate the pressure. Because right now, people are going there and they could only park on the street. And, particularly when you're packing up children, you want to be in a safe spot. So
thank you.
Good. The resolution is on the floor. I'll call the question. All in favor? It's carried. 8B6, Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, Scope Change Update. The General Manager, Transportation and Operations Services, Report Number GM TOS 2020-24, and the resolution is that the General Manager of Transportation and Operations Services, Report Number GM TOS 2020-24, Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, Scope Change Update be received. Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Sandison. Councillor Thompson, you had raised this issue, so there you go.
Yep, I certainly support with the extra funding. We're looking at the buses, if we can buy more, but I'd certainly like at this point to put the Accessibility Committee's 2 cents worth in here and say that we know there's an issue with accessibility, enough buses in our fleet for accessibility issues, and I see the chair looking at me over there, and it is a concern. So I would like to send the message from the Accessibility Committee that if there's any future or when there's feasibility that we be looking at more buses. Right now we have only 3, 2 work at the same time. Most municipalities at our size are running 4 and 5 mobility buses. I know it concerns buying buses and staffing them, but if we're going to have a mobility bus service in our Belleville, that if we're buying these other buses, but maybe next time we go around, that we'd be looking at accessibility buses, purchasing instead of more of the other ones. Not that we don't mean both, but accessibility is an issue, and we need to try and address some of those concerns. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Sandison.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you, and certainly appreciate the comments from Councillor Thompson. These 4 buses initially were brought forward last year, and we did receive ICIP funding earlier this year, and through the good work of General Manager Reed and Transit Manager Paul Buck, they were able to negotiate a change in the scope because the funding would permit that we could go to the 5th bus. Now, those 5 buses are dearly required. I think it's the first new bus purchase since something like 2010. And as we step up with regional transit, which is very close with Quinte West, using Loyalist as a hub, and then we also look to expand transit into Ward 2, as well as sort of replace some of the older fleet. Those 5 buses will be put to good use. But certainly going forward, and I think the transit group are looking at possibly an additional buses to look after mobility. Thank you.
Right. Councillor Thompson.
Just like that word plural, buses.
Yes. Well, you know, again, Councillor Thompson, we are always limited by our abilities. It's not that we don't want more accessibility buses. It's just that we have so many demands on the municipal resources that it's very difficult. But this is another very, very good news story, a credit to our staff. You know, there was some critical discussion earlier this year when we approved our budget, or our capital budget, and there was people made some comments about the fact that we should have taken the opportunity to buy some electrified buses. And, you know, at that time, we knew that pricing was going to be positive for us. It would be a positive development for the city of Belleville. But had we gone with starting our own pilot project on our own with respect to electrifying our bus fleet, we would have been able to only purchase 3 new buses with that funding. Now we can tell the rest of the story, which is why we were going ahead with that deal with Nova, because we're getting 5 buses. Not 3 buses, but 5 buses, and those you know, people, including some local columnists, who wrote and suggested that the financing model really wasn't a good decision because you know, the 3 buses would have paid for themselves. Well, when we now look at 5 buses, people, I hope, understand now the issues that we were considering and why this is a superior decision. It doesn't mean that we're not interested in looking at electrifying our transit and other fleets for the city. That is the way that we will go. But this is funding that we receive from the federal and provincial governments, and we thank them very much for it. And the fact of the matter is we're going to get 5 new buses in 2021, which will join our fleet, which will help to take some pressure off some of our older equipment, but also allow us to look at some improvements in service. And Councillor Thompson will remind us, as he should all the time, about the fact that we need to add equipment to our accessibility fleet, and I think we are all committed to it. So another good news story. Thank you, Mr. Buck. Thank you, Mr. Reid. Thank you, Director Hines and her staff helping with the application process, and we're all going to be very happy when those 5 buses arrive. I will call the question. All in favor? It's carried. We'll move now to 8C, Council Information Matters. Council may adopt consent items by one motion, but prior to consideration of such motion, members may request that specific items be removed from consideration under such motion, and Council shall consider such items individually. We'll go around the table. I'll start with Councillor Williams.
No, thank you.
Councillor Millette. Councillor McCaw.
No, thank you.
Councillor Thompson.
No, thank you.
Councillor Kelly.
No, thank you.
Councillor Sandison.
No, thank you.
Councillor Carr.
No, thank you.
Councillor Culhane. All right. So the following agenda items be received. The motion. A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Sandison, seconded by Councillor Kelly. All in favor, it's carried. A motion to rise and report. Moved by Councillor Sandison, seconded by Councillor McCaw. All in favor, it's carried. We'll move to bylaws, and first reading of bylaws, I'll just call the numbers. Bylaw number 2020-175-176, 177, 178, 179, 180, 181, 182, 183, 184, and 185. Moved by Councillor Kelly, seconded by Councillor Thompson. All in favor, it's carried. Second reading of bylaws number 2020-175, 176, 177, 178, 179, 180, 181, 182, 183, 184, and 185. Moved by Councillor Sandison, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any discussion on these bylaws? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, it's carried. And third and final reading of bylaws number 2020-175, 176, 177, 178, 179, 180, 181, 182, 183, 184, and 185. Moved by Councillor Kelly, seconded by Councillor Sandison. All in favor, it's carried. New business. I'm going to make a quick announcement, or a quick item for new business, Councillor Thompson, and then I will recognize you. My colleagues, as we continue to operate in Ontario under an emergency declaration and a number of new regulations, we have seen the relaxation of some measures and a bit more normal life for all of us. That being said, the provincial government has announced stricter rules for unsupervised social gatherings. I must stress to the residents of Belleville that no larger than 10 people indoors and 25 people outdoors are permitted at any time for unsupervised gatherings. Even with these smaller numbers, we urge residents to practice social distancing and to wear masks when they are unable to do so. Before I get to some of the new business or the news that I wanted to talk about, I'm happy to announce, let's remind ourselves of the things that we can do to prevent the spread of the COVID-19 virus. Washing and sanitizing your hands is the most effective action we can take. In addition, practice social distancing with people outside of your bubble and wear a mask indoors and when social distancing is not possible. I want to thank everyone who has been working so hard in our region. I want to thank our first responders and all of our frontline workers and everyone who has sacrificed for our collective benefit. Since some of the new measures have been announced, I have already heard from a number of residents who are concerned about this second wave and the increased number of positive cases in Ontario. I know that many residents and businesses are very anxious. We will get through whatever is in store for us, just like we did with the first wave. Our residents and businesses care about each other and will take the necessary precautions. For the small amount of people who do not, we are enforcing the new regulations in partnership with the Belleville Police Service and the Prince Edward Hastings Health Unit. We have much reason to be confident. Our numbers have been and continue to be very low. Testing is much better than it was back in the spring, and we know much more about the virus today than back on March 17th when the provincial declaration of emergency was first announced. The City of Belleville is taking steps to ensure the continuation of services and operations so that our residents and businesses can continue to count on us. Rest assured, we are committed to continuing to handle this pandemic and to protect our community. Finally, let's remember that the most important quality we can all possess during these challenging times continues to be compassion. Our residents are incredible human beings, and I am continually amazed at the love and compassion demonstrated every day, and we as a City Council are so very proud to represent our community. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have one item that I would like a staff report on, and it refers back to one of the items on the C items on the town of Amherstburg, wanting to a motion there to receive there, but I would like that the Part 7 of the resolution from Amherstburg to request that the province of Ontario provide support, training, and resources to assist designated public sector agencies who may be finding this requirement challenging, so that may be reasonable compliance plans in place to work towards website accessibility, equal opportunity. So if I could have a staff report on trying to get some funding from the government to bring some of these standards into place.
Sure. Yeah, so what we'll do, Councillor Thompson, is we'll have the actual resolution in next meeting's bundle so that we can vote on it, and we'll take it. Thank you for speaking with me about that earlier, and you know, again, we appreciate what the town of Amherstburg was doing. We agree with it, except for that one clause, which was to postpone the deadline for compliance. And the resolution that will come forward will be the City of Belleville resolution, Councillor Thompson.
That's right.
And I'll recognize you to be the mover of that at that time.
Yeah, and thank you very much. And I think it's important. I spoke to you, your worship about it. I talked to our city clerk, Matt McDonald, and our accessibility person, Sarah Collins, and the general consensus was to bring that separate one back in, that she felt, and Matt felt, that we were following in line with the regulations. There's always a little bit of hiccup here and there with the main resource. And when this was first brought in a number of years ago, I remember speaking at one of the conventions in Toronto, asking for funding, and it still becomes an issue. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McCaw.
Thank you, through you. Just want to take this opportunity to make some clarifying remarks regarding some comments by the chair of the EDDC committee at its most recent meeting about a week and a half ago. It was subsequently reported in the media, which I read in the media, Meantime, there have been recent preliminary discussions between Belleville City staff and members of the Economic and Destination Development Committee surrounding potentially adding more residence spaces to the downtown for out-of-town Loyalist College students. These comments brought about some questions to me. Being on the committee, I was not present that day. I was at another meeting. But residents were concerned that taxpayer funds are being floated to use towards Loyalist College residences. So I just want to be clear for those watching at home. Number one, members of committees do not speak for all of council. Number two, the city is not in the construction business. And number three, there's been no consultation, to my knowledge, with council or President Vaughan from Loyalist College, as far as I'm aware. The comments released to the media without research and fulsome consultation with Loyalists has not been helpful. And I'm only bringing it forward just to reassure members of the public and taxpayers that we're not using tax dollars to build student residences downtown. Student residence is more of a mandate for Loyalist College and not the City of Belleville. So I just want everyone to be clear on that. We are not building residences in downtown. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sanderson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I have a number of items I'd like to discuss. First up is speeding. So speeding is an ongoing battle in our city, and it's an uphill battle. The Belleville Police Services have set up a direct link for residents to alert them of issues so that the finite resources can be deployed to the problem areas. And so I respectfully ask the public that when they observe a problem, that they report it to the Belleville Police Service at traffic@police.belleville.on.ca. And that'll help us, believe me, because they will log the complaints and they will deploy the resources to the hot spots. At our Transportation Committee meeting last week, the Belleville Police Services shared some hellish numbers, and speeding violations in our city are staggering. Currently, we have two what's called community safety zones, and in the span of 1 hour and 45 minutes in one of those zones, they issued 24 speeding tickets. So that's one speeding ticket every 5 minutes. At St. Joseph's, 5 speeding tickets were issued in a 1 hour period. So as a city and as a police force, we put a great deal of effort into improving vehicular and pedestrian safety. But the single biggest factor in all of this is us, the ones that drive those vehicles. So if we obey the speed limit and the traffic rules, we help keep everyone in our community safe. And what I like to mention to people is this: no matter where you're going, a few extra minutes won't matter. It will be there when you get there. So I ask that you spread the word, help keep our community safe, and again, please report any problems to traffic@police.belleville.on.ca. Second item that I'd like to discuss is water and wastewater rates. Over the last 2 to 3 weeks, I've received a heavy amount of inquiries relative to how much water costs are in Belleville versus the surrounding area, and even the GTA. So over the past few weeks, as I mentioned, I've responded to a number of those inquiries. Some were challenging the rates, some were confused by our methodology, and others simply believe our rates are too high. So let me first, I guess, a lay of the land, if you will, for the corporation. It's my opinion, and not necessarily that of council, that water and wastewater infrastructure investment is one of, if not the most important undertaking we must take to ensure safe, reliable, environmentally sound, and ongoing delivery of those services. And yes, our rates are high, as is the entire Eastern Ontario region, especially when you compare it to the GTA. Each municipality differs for a variety of reasons, such as source of water, cost of treatment, population size, age of infrastructure, forecasted growth, development charges, and so each of the municipalities' unit prices reflect those differences. But the one unit of measure that's constant is water consumption as registered by a meter. One of the things I did to try and help alleviate those concerns is I asked city staff to take my water bill and do an apples-to-apple comparison for my Belleville residential water service invoice dated September the 1st in the amount of $406.75. One of the areas of confusion was that some people believed our rates were 32% higher than Quinte West, which I told them simply wasn't true, but I would do the analysis to prove it. So my invoice with an equivalent Quinte West invoice based on the exact same consumption would have been 6.58% lower than Belleville, and that would have come in at $379.98. So for me personally, that meant an extra 42 cents per day. So our water rates are approximately 93% fully recovered. And for those municipalities that aren't as well positioned as us, the day of reckoning is coming. And the last item I'd like to share with the group is from the Finance Committee meeting that we had with Doug in terms of the annual reports. We also struck the budget for the capital budget. And so the capital budget submission deadline for the departments was last Friday. The exec management team are going to be working through the week of October 12th to the 16th by themselves to grind through the numbers. Then on November the 13th, they will meet with the Finance Committee, being invited to go through those numbers. And then the capital budget itself will be posted and mailed out to all of council on November the 19th or 20th. And then the capital budget meeting for council will occur on December the 1st. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just if I can just add a little bit to the items you raised, Councillor Sanderson. You know, first of all, you talked about speeding, and that is a very serious issue, not just in Belleville, but in all communities, I would say, in all of Ontario, and that's why we've seen the province take some steps. But you're very right about the fact that it is something that we are increasingly have to deal with. You know, sometimes residents ask us, for example, to have their roads resurfaced, and then we deal with the invariable high-speed complaints afterwards. And so it is really difficult, and we don't have a lot of measures at our disposal. I'm grateful that the Transportation Committee is working on traffic calming initiatives that we can try and deal with. But our city is a bigger, busier place. And like everywhere else, people are driving too quickly. And some of us, myself included sometimes, but it's something that we need to deal with as we move forward. And so I'm glad to see the work of the committee with respect to electronic forms of traffic monitoring, but also the school bus arm program that Councillor Kelly brought forward to us is good. And then the second thing I just wanted to talk about in terms of those wastewater rates, and you know, we get that a lot. But I would be careful. You have to also compare the mix of municipalities. You know, we have a community with over 50,000 people, but we have a lot of people who are on city water services. And so we have to build a much larger capacity, which requires a much more intensive investment, which requires more debt servicing costs. All those things. We are well suited moving forward both on drinking water but also our sanitary system to be able to deal with the growth in the future. Some other communities are going to have to leap that hurdle, which is going to be significant, and they will see their rates impacted. But I appreciate the fact you went through that exercise to compare apples to apples, because often, people compare us to cities with 1 million people and say, well, why is our transit fees higher? Why are our taxes higher? Why are water rates higher? We all have the same costs. We just have less people to spread it around. So that's there. But thank you very much for raising those items. New business. Seeing none, I will move on to motions. There are none today. Anyone for notice of motions? We'll move to announcements. Council announcements. Councillor Kelly.
I stand, sir, again?
Yeah, we're in committee.
All right, thank you.
Yeah,
Through you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to mention this from last week. I guess I could have done it on a new business, but I was at a meeting for the Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board, and some stats came out from the summer. I'm not too sure if you're aware of them, but I'll share them tonight. Hotel data for the month of July showed Bay of Quinte region as having the second highest occupancy percentage in the entire country at 71.6%. Only Kelowna, BC was higher. That's an interesting tidbit for you. Hotel data for the year so far, January to July, shows that we're number 6 in Belleville for occupancy percentage in the country at 46.5. And the last thing, between Belleville, Brighton, and Quinte West, Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board Airbnb, about 100,000 visitors in the properties in July and August here in the Quinte area. So those are some big numbers, and just wanted to give an update on some of the tourism dealing with COVID. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for announcements today? Okay, I have a few. First of all, I want to just say that I've been very fortunate to attend some great events over the last few weeks. I am proud to say that every organization and business that I've attended has adjusted so very well to the new COVID-19 protocols, making it safe for all of those who were attending. I attended the United Way campaign kickoff barbecue event drive-through at the Belleville Fairgrounds. Thank you to the United Way staff for coming up with a unique way to celebrate this highly anticipated kickoff event, and for everyone who supported the United Way on that day and since. The Belleville General Hospital Foundation ran a great fundraiser at McDonald's that I was able to attend. I reported live on the Lauren Brooker radio show. This event was very successful and a great way to raise much-needed funds for the Belleville General Hospital Foundation. A very special thank you to Armand and Marilyn Quickert, who funded the remaining amount required for the purchase of a new ventilator for our local hospital. It was a tremendous gesture of generosity, and while that was the target that day, the fundraising event didn't quite come up with it, and then they stepped in to ensure that the rest of it was done. So we're very lucky for those folks. The Export Bar and Grill in the former Earl and Angelo's location celebrated their official grand opening. What a great restaurant in downtown Belleville with a wonderful menu. Good luck to the new owners. I attended the celebration of life for the late Brian McGee, along with former Mayor Tasso Christopher and former Mayor and current Bay of Quinte Member of Parliament Neil Ellis. We represented the city councils for the past consecutive 14 years. The event was very well done and a fitting tribute to a man who cared so much for the city of Belleville. The city of Belleville, in partnership with Alexicon, held a ribbon cutting for the new cooling and heating plant installation at the Quinte Sports and Wellness Centre. Thank you to Councillor Sandis and Culhane for joining me for that event and attending. It was good news for the city because this is an important addition to the city of Belleville, and we are grateful for our partnership with the Lexicon Group. This is a great program because not only does it reduce our carbon footprint and the expenses the city has in operating that facility, but then the profit that is made by Alexicon on this project gets returned to us as shareholders. It's a win-win-win. Last week was Rail Safety Week, and I attended an event here in Belleville that helped to raise awareness about rail safety. Thank you to Councillors Thompson and Sandison for attending with me. Task Force Engineering, who were the successful bidders of the Memorial Arena and Legion buildings earlier this year, they held an open house at the Memorial Arena last week to showcase their plans for the memorial portion of the project. Exciting things are happening at that location. Stay tuned as they are unveiled. Last Friday morning, I attended an event which welcomed police officers from across Ontario who are cycling to raise awareness for fallen police officers lost in the line of duty. I was happy to share the speaking with Acting Chief Mike Callahan, and we are extremely proud of our local force and all the men and women who serve and protect us each and every day. Thank you to Acting Belleville Police Service Deputy Chief Sherry Meeks for organizing this event here in Belleville. This past Friday, the City of Belleville hosted a very special event to recognize and honor past Alderman and Councillor Selma Botnick. Selma served the City of Belleville in an elected capacity for an amazing 25 years. The splash pad in Parkdale Park was officially dedicated in honor of Selma. Friday, September the 25th, was also proclaimed as Selma Botnick Day in the City of Belleville, and it was great to see so many former mayors and former councillors of the City of Belleville attend that event. We are grateful for their past service, and we credit them for the wonderful community we have today, and it was rewarding to recognize Selma Botnick. This past Saturday, I was able to attend the Mutual Aid Training Center in Quinte West to formally present the donation of our former fire department ladder truck. I was able to attend with Deputy Chief Patry, who joined me and Quinte West Mayor Jim Harrison as we turned over the keys. Ladder 726 served the City of Belleville and our residents and businesses very well and for many years. Ladder 726 certainly doesn't owe us anything. It is wonderful that we are able to donate this truck to the Mutual Aid facility. This is where our firefighters from the entire region train. Our mutual aid partnership ensures that if any of our regional fire departments respond to an emergency, all of us are there to assist. It's another example of how we are better as a region when we work together, and the City of Belleville is proud to donate this piece of equipment to help keep our community safe. And finally, yesterday, Councillor Kelly and I had the pleasure to attend the Quinte Skyhawks announcement event at Mary Ann Sills Park. Belleville and the Quinte Skyhawks have been awarded a Canadian Junior Football League franchise to begin play next year in the fall of 2021. The Canadian Junior Football League is a national amateur Canadian football league consisting of 18 teams playing in 5 provinces across Canada. This league is comprised of players 17 to 22 and will be playing out of our facilities at the Mary Ann Sills Park. Yesterday, the Skyhawks introduced their new head coach, Warren Goldie, and also announced a partnership with Loyalist College to allow players to continue their education while playing for the team. This is a significant development for the branding and economic development that being in this league will bring to the City of Belleville. And this announcement follows several other good news developments in and for the City of Belleville. This news further bolsters the new feeling of confidence in our city regarding our future. The Quinte Skyhawks are a great organization, and I am happy to see their continued success here in Belleville. My deepest gratitude to President Peter Gabriel and the entire organization for this wonderful addition to Belleville, and we look forward to working with them to prepare our community for this new league. I have a number of proclamations to issue for this month. October 1st is National Seniors Day in the City of Belleville. On Thursday, we will be attending a flag-raising event to raise the seniors flag at the Quinte Sports and Wellness Center and to read the full proclamation. October 2nd is Wrongful Conviction Day in the City of Belleville. October is Autism Awareness Month in the City of Belleville. The bridge and Belleville sign will be blue to recognize this cause. October is a Child Abuse Prevention Month in the City of Belleville, and I encourage all residents in Belleville to wear purple on October 27th to show your support. The bridge and the Belleville sign will be purple from October 28th to the 31st to represent this cause. October is also Rett Syndrome Awareness Day in the City of Belleville. Rett syndrome is a neurological disorder that affects mostly females. Symptoms don't typically show until the age of 16 to 18 months. The bridge and Belleville sign will be purple on October 28th to 31st to also represent this cause. October 22nd is National Disability Employment Awareness Day. The bridge and Belleville sign will be blue to represent this cause. And October 7th is International Trigeminal Neuralgia. Is that right, Councillor Culhane? Neuralgia Awareness Day. Please help in raising awareness for this chronic condition. And with that, I will ask that a confirmatory bylaw, that bylaw number 2020-186, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on September the 28th, 2020, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 28th day of September 2020. Moved by Councillor Sanderson, second by Councillor Kelly. All in favor? It's carried. Motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Millette, seconded by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you very much. And a happy Thanksgiving to everyone.